Hello, Serge here for the Backyard Driving Range. Oh, we have a question that came into customer service here, and this one is from Samuel Vasquez. And Sam says, Serge, I am 65 years old and I've been using your swing for about 2 years. It took me over a year to master your swing. It's not perfect yet, but I'm getting there. Between your videos that I purchase and the daily videos you send out, my swing has improved. I'm starting to hit the ball down the middle constantly. I only have one problem, and I hope you can help me with it. When I hit the ball, I can see it go straight, but when it hits the ground, the ball bounces to the right. So I'm losing distance. Can you help me solve this problem? Okay, now, understanding the laws of physics and the laws of ball flight, if you're hitting the ball straight, the ball should bounce straight. Because hitting a ball straight basically means it's got relatively overspin where it's tumbling and spinning with the center of the ball staying vertical to the ground. Not having a side spin that if the side spin is left to right, the ball will fly right. It will start and curve to the right, or hook spin, which for a right-hander would be right to left, which will hook it, okay? So if it's going straight, it should bounce straight unless the ground is angled, all right? So and then therefore, if it's angled from left to right for a right-hander, it'll bounce to the right. If it was angled left to right to left, or high to low, from the right to the left, it'll bounce left. So I got to believe somewhere along the line, if your balls are consistently bouncing to the right, you must have a little bit of curvature on them, a little bit of left to right spin if you're a left-hander, or right to left spin if you're a lefty. And I'm guessing it's got to be, since it's losing distance, it's got to be going to the right. But again, I like to always quote Lee Trevino. One of the best quotes I think I've ever heard about the golf game is he says, you can talk to a fade, but you can't talk to a hook. Why? Because fades hit and kind of stop, and that's why fades stay in play better, unless you're a really huge banana ball slicer. But fades are soft cuts, and soft fades, they hit the ground and they die quicker because they're tumbling this way towards the ground. But the other way, tumbling that way, they tend to run a lot more and therefore go farther into trouble. So that's why most golfers who have really big hooks and stuff, and pulls and hooks, hit the ball goes farther, but it also has a probability of going farther the wrong way into more trouble. So the only thing I can surmise from this is that somewhere along the line, you have to be putting some type of left to right spin on the ball. You have to have the ball moving, and because you're losing it to the right, the only assumption I can make is you're a right-handed golfer. The ball's hitting, and it's got a little bit of right curve. The only other thing could possibly be is if, say, you were hitting, so to speak, down on the club a little bit too much, even with a driver, hitting it high in the face and giving it some backspin, the ball went straight, it would be hitting and dropping and pretty much stopping. But again, since you're saying that the ball is always hitting and bouncing right, it's got to mean that wherever you're playing, the fairways are pretty darn hard. All right? And here's another thought that just popped into my head, and I've read this thing 3 or 4 times because I write notes about what I want to talk about before I come down. That I've read it before I read these things out, so I know where I want to go. You might not have a lot of slope, but many times they might have graded the fairways with a little slope from the middle out to the right and the left for drainage, especially if golf courses tend to be really, really flat. They put this drainage on it so that if you do get any kind of severe rain, it's just not going to sit there and just have nowhere to go, and can eventually, have big mud puddles in the middle of the fairways. So there might be a discernible slight slope like we see on roads, right, where they want the water to drain off the road. So there could be enough of that's happening. So the only thing I'm going to say here is this. Since you do mention that you hit a couple shots pretty good, I think what we got here is we need to work on your forward swing. Now, we know that we want to go in the catcher's mitt and up the tree in the backswing. We come back square at impact, and we go into the forward catcher's mitt and up the tree on that side. You could be hitting the ball. You could be just a little slow swinging through the ball, which is going to give you really get you dead square at impact and really get you swinging through fast enough into the forward mid toe up and up the tree and over the shoulder. And if you're doing that a little bit slow, you just might not be getting a tight enough spin on your ball and hitting it with enough really dead solid impact to really transfer the energy from the club to the ball and get that really good tight spin that'll hold it even straighter and get it hitting and tumbling forward rather than maybe as it's getting towards the end of its apogee and you've hit it with not enough really smack dead on, or as they call it now, where it's the smash factor isn't solid enough, so therefore it could be just getting as it starts to lose its forward momentum, it starts losing its spin too much, and it can start drifting a little to the right and therefore hit and kick right. So the thing I would recommend is that when you practice on really making sure that when you hit the ball, that club is going right into the forward mid, toe up and straight up over your shoulder. Another thing that just again popped into my mind here is check your finish, because if you're doing that and you're finishing a little wide and pulling this way, that could again be, even though you're square at impact, it could be just enough slight coming across the ball at impact that it could be imparting just enough spin that the ball will stay relatively straight. But again, as I said earlier, as it's reaching the end of its expended energy and it's starting to get ready to fall out of its flight pattern, it could have just enough spin to make it tumble to the right and therefore roll to the right. So I think the answer there would be to make sure that you hit it and you're into that, catches into that forward mid, toe up, and when you swing it up over the shoulder, it's like toe up the tree, toe up, and over the shoulder, toe up, and recoil and relax. So, and you should be finishing a lot tighter to the ear, where the back of your left hand should almost be touching your ear when your palms are perpendicular to the ground going over the ear. If you're finishing a little bit wide, now somebody would say, well, many times, what's the finish got to do with hitting the ball? If you've heard me say that the ball's on the club 1/2 of 1,000th of a second, 0.0005, which is there in the Search for the Perfect Golf Swing when he talked about on square and solid impact. Yes, the ball's only on that long, but if you're finishing up here, that movement started somewhere behind the ball. And so if you're going to go to that point, your muscles in your body are already in a movement that's going to allow you to go over there. And if that movement started back here and you're slightly across the aiming line and pulling inside of it because you're finishing a little bit wide or turning your shoulders a little bit through the ball and are finishing a little too wide up here instead of tight, which is still going to pull your shoulders more, that started before impact. It could be, again, that smash factor on the ball and that solidness of impact dead straight on to really keep that good tight spin. It instead allows maybe a little bit of just enough spin that'll hold the ball relatively straight, but when it's dying, it is starting to spin. When it hits, it tumbles. That could be where your right bounce is coming from. So I think it's make sure you got that 3/4, turn to the toe line up here, in the mitt and up the tree, and in the mitt and up the tree, and over the left shoulder. Tight with the bottom hand tight to the ear, and I think that you might see that you're going to have a little bit more solid hits. You'll see the ball come off the club and shoot out there with a little bit more speed and a tightness. In other words, the ball fires out there, it rockets out there, it's tight. You're going to see it hold the line better, and I think if it's holding the line better in the air, it'll hold the line better at its fall to the earth, and it'll very likely bounce more straight and not that weak thing to the right, and that should do it for you. Okay. Well, that's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking with you all again soon.